we're going to kick the workshop off for today. And today we will be going over how to weaponize Sigma. So I am Tyler Casey. I am the deputy of SCYTHE Labs and the detection engineer that we have over here. I have about 10 years of experience doing DCO, which is defensive cyber operations. Currently, I run the blue or defensive side of our purple team engagements, and I'm responsible for a lot of the emulations that we put out through our Empower service. Before I was with SCYTHE, I was on a CPT, which is a cyber protection team, and we deployed internationally for incident response and targeted threat hunting operations. And then today we are lucky enough to have our head of SCYTHE Labs, Mr. Trey Bilbrey, assisting. Elaine is also on. I'm sorry that I did not have you in the notes, Elaine. So I will kick over to Trey for his introduction.
Hey all, most of y'all have seen me before. If you're a repeat attendee, I am Trey. I'm the lead adversary engineer over here. Pretty decent background, 15 plus years in all things of red, blue, take your pick. I've done a little bit of everything. If you care about certs and stuff, I've got a list on the slide there, and you can find more on my LinkedIn. I'll be here today helping out Tyler and assisting as y'all need. So if you got questions, shoot them my way. Issues with the labs, let us know.
Awesome, thanks a lot. And then also honorable mention, we have Elaine. I'm sorry, Elaine, I didn't make you a slide, but she is here also to assist. All right. So like Elaine said, if you have not already done so, please go ahead and start your lab entitlement via the quick launch URL. You should have gotten that in your email that you registered for the workshop. It could take a while to load, so just go ahead and get that started now so we don't have to wait for it later. And then if you have any issues, please let us know in the chat. Okay, so today we're going to talk about Sigma, why we care about it, how to create a standard rule, how to translate that rule into something actionable, and then we're going to execute some adversary emulations to test our detections that we made. It's going to be a good time. So what is Sigma? Sigma is an open source structured format for writing detections, which is written in YAML. Sigma HQ houses thousands of community detections for us to utilize and contribute to in their GitHub repo. In this workshop, we're going to do basically what that infographic on there is showing you. We're going to take a Sigma rule, we're going to convert it, and we're going to deploy it in our SIEM to test our detection and see if we get any hits. All right, so before we jump into Sigma and making detections, we need to talk about why it exists and why we're here to talk about it. So in my experience, detection sharing has not been very good. Detections were created by analysts who existed in a silo with, oh, sorry about that, guys. They existed in a silo with little collaboration, and those detections that they created stayed with that same analyst, and they weren't shared with anybody. I've seen people hunting in the SIEM, creating awesome detections, getting results returned to them, actively finding the bad guy, and then they just kind of sit there and they don't say anything. And then we get to the hot wash at the end of the day. We ask if anybody has anything that they want to talk about or share with everyone, and then they don't say anything. We have to go into the hot wash, or excuse me, I actually have had to go into the job queue or the job search history and pull out other people's searches to add them to our repo because people just do not want to share what they've created. And as far as external detection sharing goes, if you did happen to see a detection via CTI or a blog post, it was written in whatever SIEM language that company uses, or it was some kind of proprietary language or interface you don't have, and you would have to try and manually translate that detection anyway. And this is not the way. But having a central repository with a standard format, being tool agnostic, this is the way. And that is what Sigma brings to the table and why I really enjoy talking about it, and also using an active user of it, use it literally every day. Let me turn, I think I have my notifications on still, so you guys are seeing my little blurbs. I'm sorry about that.
Sorry, I had to send you your link.
Oh, you're good. Sorry about that, guys. So like I was saying, central repo. Sigma HQ's GitHub is the central repository for the currently published rules. You can submit your rules to Sigma HQ for them to be published and accessible by everybody. However, if you're not able to share all the rules with the Sigma HQ repo for whatever reason, that's all right, guys. You can still keep an internal repo that is accessible within your organization and allows for multiple people to contribute and access it, kind of providing a one-stop shop for the detections that your organization has. So having a standard format means that you should get the same result every time. You should be able to take your detection that is written in Sigma, share it with anybody, and without any additional context, they should be able to get the same results that you got when they convert it. And then, just like it says, Sigma rules are able to be converted to almost any security tool that has a query bar, whether that's Splunk or CrowdStrike EDR, Sentinel, Elastic, or Kibana, any of those. If it has a bar, you should be able to automatically convert it using a tool like Uncoder or Sig Converter, and we'll be talking about those two tools here in a second. And then lastly, everybody takes notes and makes queries differently, but having a standard format stored where people have access to it and it can be automatically translated to most of the query languages, we can curate and produce detections better, faster, and more people can use them. And that's what I envision detection sharing to be. So at the core of it, we're all on the same team and we all have the same goal, which is to find the bad guy and to stop them. And by sharing the rules and detections that you make with the community, it just helps everybody do that in a more efficient and effective way. All right, so here is Sigma HQ's GitHub, a little snippet of it. Like I said, it hosts all of their current rules. It has a search function up at the top to assist you in your detection. And then you can see in the snippet that we have that we are looking for 7-zip, and then we'll use some 7-zip rules here in the labs in a little while. They also have detection.fyi, which hosts all of their rules in a more user-friendly format. It's definitely more customer-facing UI. So if you don't like the minimalist feel of GitHub, just the text in Markdown, you can use detection.fyi, and it links to all their rules on their GitHub page. So either way. Okay. So now we know what the state of detection sharing is, at least what my experience with it is. I'm curious if you guys have had similar experiences. How Sigma helps to alleviate some of the issues that we talked about, where to find the Sigma rules. Now we're going to get into the how to create a standard rule and how to read and parse them. So in this workshop, we're going to get a little into the weeds in kind of the format and the fields and the rules and structure and things like that, just some housekeeping. So before we get into the weeds, we're going to take a look at kind of a relatively simple Sigma rule, just so everybody kind of gets their toes in the water, right? So the rule that we have here detects potential DLL files that are downloaded via the invoke web request commandlet in PowerShell. So for our detection to hit, it has to contain either one, invoke web request or IWR in the command line, and contain all of HTTP out file and DLL in the command line. But don't worry about this too much for right now. We're going to talk about all the fields and what goes into them as we progress through the workshop. Just wanted you to have this kind of like as a frame of reference for what we're going to talk about. I think it'll help things kind of make more sense as we get into it. Excuse me. Okay, so back into rules 101. You can't make a rule without indicators, so let's find some. The first indicator source we're going to go over is CTI, which is cyber threat intelligence. What we are going to do with this is gather some actionable intelligence and then make a detection out of it. And optimally, your CTI would have some specific commands or behaviors that we could later emulate to test our detections, which we're going to do later on in the labs. Here we have a snippet of the Lockbit ransomware indicators from a CISA advisory. I know that Lockbit has been defeated recently, but who knows, maybe they'll return and we can use these same TTPs. So the indicators that we have there show some Lockbit threat actors are enabling automatic admin login via the registry keys. So in this example, we would create a rule that would detect anyone who is modifying these keys and values. All right, so we talked about CTI. I'm sure you want to know, where do I find some quality free CTI? And these right here are a great start. I use these resources all the time. I actually normally start my workday with looking at the info-sec ninja start.me page, which is the snippet that we have there. And then most of the other resources are already linked on that page. So it's just a very useful kind of one-stop shop again for CTI. But all these resources put out great stuff, and they're very current in their reporting. All right, we talked about CTI. We have a couple of references in there. So back to the indicators. The second indicator that we're going to talk about is logs. So by running emulations or performing purple team engagements, they're great ways to generate logs that emulate real adversary behavior. Of course, the best way to get adversary logs is to perform some instant response, but hopefully that doesn't happen to us, and we could just stick with the emulations and build our detections off of that. So in this example, we see our sysmon log has an entry of PowerShell creating a network connection. So that could be pretty abnormal for your environment. So you can make a detection rule just off of that. Anytime that happens, you would get an alert. Or even if it is kind of common in your environment for PowerShell to create network connections, it should probably only be reaching out to a few specific sites anyway. So you can modify your rule to exclude those websites that you know it's going to go to, which will keep your false positives down to a minimum, and you would still get an alert and be able to detect when PowerShell created a network connection. Doing it this way also provides you with a great opportunity to see if the behaviors or emulations are even being logged by your endpoints or by the tools that you have, because you can have the best detections in the world, but if you don't have those logs, it's not going to do anything, right? All right, so the last indicator that we're going to talk about is experience. You can use your experience as a starting point for conducting research to find indicators. So an example of that is, you know from your experience that a concerning threat vector is embedded PowerShell inside of some kind of productivity application, such as a Word document or PowerPoint, something like that. So in this scenario, a user gets sent a Word doc, they open it, and it spawns PowerShell. You can create a detection off of that. And then you think, well, they got this embedded PowerShell through a Word doc. What are some other common ways that they could have gotten this? So you could think, well, they could have gotten some kind of Teams chat or an Excel sheet or something like that. So you can add that to your list of kind of parent processes of things that spawn PowerShell that are a little suspicious that you would want to be alerted on. And then before you know it, you'll have a pretty succinct detection of suspicious PowerShell parent processes that will alert as you've kind of seen fit. So this kind of draws from the experience that you have of knowing kind of what's normal or abnormal in your environment, having the logs, and then you can test your logs, like we said, through either emulation or something like that. Okay. All right, so now we have our indicators. So let's get into the rule creation. Sigma rules have required fields. Most of them are pretty self-explanatory, but some are a little more nuanced, and we'll dig deeper into those here in a minute. So some of the fields that we have are title, ID, status, description, references, and author. A quick note on these, I'm not going to read them all for you, but your rules, make sure that they start off as experimental. They don't get stable or tested or anything like that until months of use and review from the community. So just start them off as experimental, and you can update them as kind of their as they're tested out. It could take months for it to become tested, and then I think it's like up to a year before it's stable. So just keep it as experimental, and don't start your title with the word to text. You want to save that for your description. Your title should be short. I think it's less than 50 characters and kind of concise on what you're looking for. And your description is the time for you to really kind of plug it all in there, have as much context as possible. And then I like to start my description with the word detects. So it could be like, if we're talking about that PowerShell situation we were just talking about a second ago, it could be detects abnormal PowerShell parent processes being spawned from productivity apps such as Word, PowerPoint, Office Suite, Teams, whatever it is that you guys use. Slack, that's probably a pretty big one. All right, even more fields. So in this one, we have date, tags, log source, detection, false positives, and level. And then the fields with the asterisk next to them are the more nuanced ones I was talking about. They have their own slides that we'll get into here in a minute. But of the fields on this one, some that I do want to quickly talk about are the false positives and the level fields. So some examples of false positives could be that administrators may use this command for server maintenance, updates, troubleshooting, startup scripts, patches, whatever. Another one could be that end users installing software. So if your rule is looking for, I don't know, let's say someone downloading AnyDesk or installing AnyDesk, that could be a normal thing that exists in your environment that could lead to a false positive. Or your false positive could be unknown. Maybe this is a new thing that you've just uncovered. You're not sure what could possibly be a false positive. Maybe the rule is so good that there are none, and that is totally fine and allowed to be put in there. See it all the time. And then as far as the level field is concerned, I don't know of any official measurement or metric that they use to determine fidelity. I think it's just based off of your own judgment. So I try to just not upsell these, right? So if I'm stuck between a medium and a low level or fidelity, I would just put low. It's better to kind of err on the side of caution. We're not getting any awards for for coming up with the highest level of fidelity, so just use your best judgment on that. Okay, so now getting more in depth. So the first one that we're going to get more in depth with is tags. The most common tags are attack, car, CVE, and TLP, and then how they're written on the slide is how they're written in the Sigma rules. It's all lowercase. Attack has the period, or they all have the period from the tag to what the indicator is. So that's just how they're written. So up first is attack, which is the MITRE ATT&CK framework. It covers tactics, techniques, and software that are utilized by threat actors, also known by MITRE as groups. If you don't have any experience in the MITRE ATT&CK framework, it is very robust and it really assists in kind of painting the whole picture of what's happening. So the whole picture of the cyber incident, or in this instance, in your rule, you can really use the attack tags to provide a lot of context without having to say a lot. So in this example, we have APT 29, which is also known as G0016, conducting discovery, which is the tactic, utilizing the remote system discovery technique, which is T1018, via Bloodhound or software S0521. So with those examples, we can kind of see how the tags can be utilized to tell a story and again provide more context to the rule without having to say a lot. Then next up is CAR, which is the Cyber Analytic Repository. This repository contains pseudocode of a query, and depending on the analytic they have, they could also have some queries that are already flushed out and some test cases available that you could deploy to see if your query detects the analytic, or to see if the analytic will detect the emulations. Sorry. So in this example, the analytic tag is letting us know that bits admin was utilized to download a file. In this example, maybe the file it downloaded was a Bloodhound executable, and we could combine the tags from attack and car in the rule. Then the next up is CVE, which is common vulnerabilities and exposures. They provide a list of vulnerabilities that affect operating systems, software, basically anything that's IT related, anything that gets an IP address. It could be vulnerable, and when it gets reported to the CVE website. In this example, it lists a vulnerability in, you guessed it, Bloodhound, that allows for the execution of OS commands. So we could tie it together maybe we say that a threat actor, maybe ABT29, also known as G0016, exploited this vulnerability, CVE 2019-15701, to get Bloodhound, also known as S0521, to run commands. So just a way that we can combine multiple sources to get as many applicable tags as possible and just provide as much context to the rule as we can. Sorry about that, guys. And then lastly, there is the TLP, which is the traffic light protocol. This is used to set the disclosure level, which essentially tells you who you're allowed to share the information with, who can you share the rule with. There's TLP red, amber, green, and clear. So red is no further disclosure, individual recipients only, trying to keep that close. Amber is limited disclosure. It's more like a need to know basis. Green is limited disclosure within the community. And if it doesn't define what the community is, it's generally safe to assume that they mean like the cybersecurity or infosec community. And then clear is disclosed to anyone, just kind of spread the word, let everybody know. But you don't need to feel pressured to apply a tag from each of these sources. Most often, I just see the attack tags. But if others align to your detection, you can include them. And it'll just provide, again, more context to your rule. That's valuable. And see a lot of hits in the chat there. I don't have that open, so if anybody has anything important, we can hit on it. Let me take a second.
You're good, Tyler. I got you.
Okay. So if anything comes up, I don't have the chat open because of the screen thing. So if anything comes up, just let me know. All right. So then moving on to the log sources. So log sources have a common subfield of product, category, and service. Sigma refers to these as the Sigma taxonomy, which is a system of classification. I had to Google that. I was not sure what taxonomy was, so I thought I would include that so everybody knows. So a product could be an operating system or an appliance or a tool. A category, I generally think of that as being the action that is occurring. So like process creation, registry modification, file modification, like what the adversary is doing. And then a service could be a literal service like syslog, or a service that is provided like AWS provides CloudTrail as long as you pay them, or a protocol service like HTTP or DNS. There is a long list of taxonomy that Sigma has. So I would recommend just referring to the documentation or the guide that they have for it. The link for that is under the snippets over there, or just Google, Sigma taxonomy. All right, and then the last standard we're going to go over is what to name your rule. So this is less of a standard and more of what they call a soft convention. The purpose for naming the rules in kind of a standard format is for the repository management or the file management inside of the repository. So you can see in the snippet that it's organized, Sigma rules, windows, and then kind of what it's doing. So that's why they name it like that. Again, the easiest way is kind of just refer to the documentation. That'll help you out. But I find that the rule names, or the file names rather, sorry, typically go the category or the service underscore the product underscore the action. And then again, they're all written in YAML. All right, so now we know the fields, we know the standards, we know the file name. So let's see it all together again. So quickly look over the rule. I'm gonna take a little sip.
Do you guys have any questions for Tyler up to this point? I know that's a lot of content that's been covered, but we're trying to make sure you guys have as much time as possible in the lab to play around. This is just kind of a lot of gibberish when you look at it the first time, but as you start actually implementing them and writing them, it starts to make a lot more sense.
Yeah, I definitely feel the same way with like the first time I tried to do it. I just felt like I was constantly going back to the documentation, that it wasn't really like making a lot of sense. But then once you see the rule all put together, it's a lot less complicated. It seems much more simple when you look at it this way. Pop this cough drop. Sorry guys, got a bit of a cough going on. All right, so this is a full rule that will detect 7-zip, compressing a file with a password, courtesy of Mr. Frack113. So for those with keen eyes, I did take the references out just because it took up too much of the slide. But know that the real rule does have references in it. It won't let you translate the rule unless you have a reference. I think the cough drop was a bad idea. All right, so this rule is tagged with attack T1560.001, which is archive collected data via utility. This utility being 7-zip. And then this log source is from a process creation on a Windows machine. So that log is likely either the sysmon or security log. And then detection is looking for matches on 7-zip and command line parameters, which we'll get into on the next slide and kind of like the detection logic. We also see that this rule could have some false positives since creating compressed files with a password could be common in your environment. Maybe that's something you guys do all the time. In your specific environment, you could take this rule and modify it to have like exclusions in there. If you know that maybe, I don't know, maybe the marketing department zips up a lot of files to send around or something, you could kind of have the marketing users excluded from your rule, something like that. There we go. Okay, so into the actual detection logic of that rule. The detection logic is obviously probably the most important part of your rule, right? So in this detection, we have a couple filters that are selection image, selection password, and selection action. Our condition states that we are looking for a match on all of these selections. That's what that condition : all of selection underscore asterisk means. So let's talk about how that actually works. Selection image is looking for the description, image, or file name, original file name, excuse me, to be some form of 7-zip. And at least one of those have to be a match to meet the condition. So we'll imagine in this scenario, we get a hit on the image being 7zip.exe and the selection image is met. So we got that one. So that plus the selection password, which is looking for a command line string that contains -p, that has to be a match to meet the condition. So luckily for us again, we get another hit on that string. Now the selection image is met and selection password is met. And then lastly, selection action is looking for a command line string that contains either A or U with spaces on either side. If anyone can tell me why they have spaces on either side, put it in the chat and you get some virtual bonus points, right? At least one of these have to match to meet the condition. Again, we're lucky enough that the command line contains an A with spaces on either side. So all of our conditions have been met, which gives us the equal that we have met the condition of all of selection, and our rule will trigger on someone executing 7-zip to create a password protected archive. And then here in a few slides, I will prove to you that it works. Does anybody have any questions on the detection logic? Nothing heard?
So you got a comment in chat, Tyler, from Jonathan saying it contains spaces to make sure the flag is freestanding and is not connected to anything else.
That's what I'm talking about. Yes, so you definitely you have the spaces on either side of the letter, because if you don't, it'll hit on if there is the letter A or U anywhere in the string, right? Which is more than likely going to hit on every single string that's that exists. So great job, Jonathan. Extra bonus points to you. All right. So I know that was a lot. We went over, a lot in not a lot of time, but we really want to get into the labs, right? So we went over where to gather indicators, where to find the Sigma rules. We followed the standards, and we went over a little bit of the detection logic and kind of how that works. So we're going to take the 7-zip Sigma rule. We were just looking at the password protected archive. We're going to translate it. We're going to test it and see if it detects a 7-zip process creating a password protected archive. So to do that, we're going to use Uncoder for the translation. It's very simple. We're just going to paste our Sigma rule on the left. You're going to choose your query language from the box in the top right and hit translate, and boom, it's converted. Does it all for you. If you don't like Uncoder, you can use Sig Converter, which is produced and maintained by Sigma HQ. It's got a couple more options, but the same basic principle as Uncoder. You're going to paste your rule under where it says rule.yaml on the left. You're going to choose your query language or the backend that you want it to be converted to, and then it'll just translate the rule automatically. This is just a front-end UI for the Python package Sigma CLI, and you can see in the top right corner how to use the command line to convert it. So from here, we're going to copy our query from the right-hand side of the screen, and we'll paste it into the search bar, and boom, detected. We did it. And congratulations, everybody. We have found the bad guy. So we see that the 7-zip process was spawned, and it's being used to create a password-protected archive, just like the rule says. We also, in this scenario, see that this elite hacker person messed up on the syntax a few times, but maybe this is an automated step in a campaign, and you can make a detection off of their mistakes also. I think it was Trey who actually said in one of the talks we had that human behaviors make good detections, and he is 100% right. There on the other side of that keyboard, there is someone with a black hoodie on, with the hoodie over their head, typing these commands just like we're on this side with our blue team quarter zips, trying to find the bad guy, right? And then a quick note on this is a real kind of sticking point for me. Sigma rules don't know what index you have, so you need to set your index. In this scenario in our lab, we just have index equals main. We just use this to test the detections, but be as specific as you possibly can in your scene. So if you know that it's event code 1, index equals main, source type equals whatever, if the Sigma rules don't convert to that, include them in there. It'll help speed your searches up and kind of not be as taxing on your seam. And whatever you do, do not use index equals asterisk as much as possible, because you just get a ton of data returned to you. It really hammers the seam. It's just not very good. So that's all I'll say about that. Just please don't do it. Okay, so now that we've kind of talked about it, it's time to be about it. So in our lab, we have a victim machine, the SCYTHE platform, and Elastic, which is configured and ingesting the logs. And we're going to deploy some campaigns via SCYTHE and detect the emulations. So let's do it. I'm going to kind of walk through the first.
Sorry, Tyler.
Yeah.
One thing, first, you're all blurry. Secondly, we had an issue with the labs, so I had to do some stuff in the background and reissue links, which I am still waiting for them to come up. So I don't know if you want to take some questions while you're waiting.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. Does anybody have any questions or anything that they have, or any experience in Sigma, or just kind of detections in general?
So keep in mind, guys, this workshop is very specific towards Sigma itself. But when we think about the whole gathering CTI for detection, engineering, and logic, we're kind of restricted to what we have, right? When you think about modern CTI and what you see out in the wild, it's just what people have correlated from other open reports realistically. A lot of times it's a blog post from a report, from something SCYTHE put out, or some kind of chain to that manner, right? So you're really limited to what was reported on, but you're also limited to what wasn't seen, right? Because we don't always get the full chain. So you've got to keep a flexible mind when building these kind of things. There's going to be some false positives, there's going to be some errors, and it's a continuous process. We've always got to constantly test, retest, make sure your detections still work. Who knows, something on the operating system or on whatever you're searching on might change, and it changes the whole way it behaves. Now your detection's broke. So don't get stuck in a rigid mindset and thinking, well, if it's been reported, that's what I'm going to detect on. And that's a really common pitfall we see a lot of people fall into.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely a good point. Oh my god, how long is that? We're going through the lab creation right now. As soon as they're up, we will let you know some issues with it this morning.
Someone
So
forgot to pray to the lab gods. If you did receive another link, like in the last few minutes, can you just give me a thumbs up in the chat, please?
Okay, so we got some right. Signal that could detect the usage of Bloodhound. Let's see. That go. I'm gonna switch my screen to this other one here. Actually, I'll just.
For anonymous attendee that asked the question, how long we'll have access to the labs? This lab should be live. Correct me if I'm wrong, Elaine, but I believe it's 2 or 3 hours, right?
It's supposed to end at 3, but I'm gonna try and extend it
Yeah, so
since we lost some time.
you guys will have plenty of time to play in it.
You guys see my detection.fyi screen?
Nay.
Okay, 1 second. Okay. You see it now?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. So, Christian, to answer your question, a signal rule that could detect the usage of Bloodhound or Sharphound, what I would do is just go to either detection FYI or to the actual Sigma HQ GitHub itself and just kind of search for it. So just looking for Bloodhound, we see that it's got Bloodhound collection files, hack tool, Bloodhound, Sharphound execution, common command line options, stuff like that. So it's got all kinds of stuff that's already in there. And then I normally, like I said, I just look for it kind of based on keyword. You can go to it. You can see it here. It's where all the Bloodhound hit, and this one will hit if the product description or company contains Sharphound or Spectre Ops. The image itself is Bloodhound or Sharphound, and then it's got some of the CLI options in there as well. So that's how I would do that. And I think there was another one.
The other side of that too, when you're thinking about detecting usage of Bloodhound, but from the domain controller's perspective, I would say the easiest route there is probably going to be looking at like network connection logs and stuff. Because at the end, a DC is meant to give up information, so it's going to talk to anything and everything that asks it nicely, right? So from that perspective, that's really the only way I would think of seeing it from there. Because nothing's being written, nothing's really being executed on the DC side. It's just the network connection from the host and the tool sending the request itself.
And then Jonathan, he's got any idea how we could use a rule around objects in light of the new shadow volume copy deletion process attackers are using? So the answer is probably no. So in that one, I don't have any off the top of my head. I'd have to do a little bit of research on that, but you can go into shadow copy and search for that and see what they already have available. And if there's nothing on there, you can create your own or hopefully find one that is related. You kind of just modify it to fit what your detection needs are.
Looks like they're still sending.
I guess the other piece too, thinking about that network connections, maybe specifically watching LDAP for bulk requests, like in a specific time period, could be a good way to go about it too for Bloodhound. Depending on which piece of the tool is being used, whether it's like the normal collector, if it's Sharphound, or using the Python implementation. I don't remember if it uses LDAP specifically to you or if it uses a different protocol to talk over. What else you guys got? Yeah, that makes sense, Yasser. I would say the same right now, especially in bulk. If you start seeing mass queries from one space, that's going to be pretty indicative. So yeah, sorry about the delay, guys. Elaine's working on the lab. We're constrained to the speed and effectiveness of VMware's learning platform, and as you can see, sometimes it just likes to act up. We'll make sure you guys have time and plenty of time to play through the lab though and get questions in. We're not just gonna cut you off.
Hey, if you do not have a lab link, let me know, and I'm just gonna build one out instead of waiting. We don't need to waste any more time.
So yeah, Christian, yes, when the lab comes back up, you're gonna have a new timer countdown on it. It's not gonna go based off where you were previously. So it'll be like you started a brand new lab environment.
And then showing that Danny Mart doesn't have a link yet.
So show of hands from the group for everyone that's currently attending. Is Sigma a new thing for you? Was this a lot of new content, or most of you guys used it in some shape or form before?
Jessica Tubbs have a hand up. See some new content from John. Okay. Okay. So a lot of kind of used earlier. Nice. So a lot of kind of new or heard of it but never really tried it out. Say with my previous job, I was kind of in the same boat where I heard of it, but I never used it for never used it in production. We had kind of that detection sharing I was talking about earlier, where you just kind of made your detections. You know, you kept it in your OneNote. It was written in Splunk or Elastic, and it wasn't really shared with any external agencies. It wasn't until we started really doing some joint stuff or working with external agencies, having to kind of work with new people I've never met before, where Sigma rules really came in handy as having like a set standard and format of rules that could be given to anyone. Yeah, 100% agree with you. Yes, we're on that.
Does everyone have a link now, or does anyone need one? I think you're probably good to start, and if anyone needs one, they'll let me know.
Oh, we got
Rab.
Rab.
Yep. Great.
1 sec to share my screen. All right, you guys see the screen of my lab instance?
No,
What about now?
no, we can.
Okay. So for
The
this,
lab, the lab window's a little small. You might want to move your manual over so you can make the
okay.
unicorn bigger.
Well, I'm just gonna go over the kind of manual, the first section of the manual, and then leave you guys to kind of go through. So we'll kind of do it in sections. So we'll kind of talk about the first part, and then have you guys do it, and we'll do the second section. We'll give it a little bit of time for questions and stuff, and then it'll kind of be on your own for the third part of it. So for the first one, like I said, I'm just gonna kind of talk about the manual that we have here. So again, welcome to the Weaponizing Sigma workshop. Here it has just kind of a list of the systems that are available and IP addresses. It's going to talk about what we're doing. So we're going to deploy a threat with SCYTHE. And then to do that, here are the steps to define your campaign and deploy your threat. And then the next step we're going to do is define some campaign automation. So these are the emulations that are going to actually occur and what we're going to make some of the detections on. We're going to have some print screen, ARP, and then run who am I? And then up under attack techniques, we're going to click on the system time discovery and add that to our campaign. We're going to deploy that. And then we're going to download, deploy, and detonate the implant. And then for that, that'll run the campaign and perform the adversary emulation actions on your Unicorn lab machine. See here all the steps. And then we're going to use some community created rules that we've procured and save them on the desktop inside of Sigma rules. The Sigma rules folder on the desktop. The first rule that we're going to look at is the process creation Windows system time lookup. If you want to go to the link itself, I have the link for it down there. We have an example of our rule. Again, it's on the desktop for you guys to look at. Got some challenge questions for you guys to do to make sure that we understand the Sigma rule and what it's looking for and what it's doing. Then we're going to convert it. We're going to set the index. We're going to deploy our detection in Kibana and verify that it works. So that's kind of the first section is an introduction to SCYTHE itself, utilizing the platform, making the campaign, deploying your threat, looking at the Sigma rule, understanding what that Sigma rule is doing and what it's looking for, what it's detecting on, and then translating it, kind of like how we did in the slides. We're going to translate it, and then we are going to deploy it in our SIEM and see if we get any hits. If you guys want to go ahead and get started on that, we'll have a little bit of time that we'll have set aside for that. And if anybody runs into any issues or has any questions, please speak up. I figure we'll give this, what do you think a good amount of time is, Trey?
I'd say probably 10-15 minutes or so to get through the introduction to SCYTHE piece, and then you can demo it so they can follow along as well if they're still playing.
Okay, yeah, for sure. So what we're going to do, I have 12:55 local time over here. So let's say we'll do some independent work until let's call it 1:10, and then we'll see how everybody's doing. Again, if everybody runs into any issues or has any problems, please let us know, and we can go ahead and try to assist you. Yeah, yeah, sir. Thanks for joining. Hope you got some out of it. And if you run into any questions or anything like that, please let us know.
Anybody have any questions or concerns so far working through the first chunk of the lab? And for those of you following along, if you've already finished through the main like scythe chunk section and deploying a threat, go ahead and throw a thumbs up in the chat window so we can get a feel for if all still working.
All right, everybody. That takes us to about 1:10 local time I have over here. Was everybody able to get through the lab and answer the questions? Or does anybody need any more time to go through this first section of the lab?
I think we're okay to move forward, Tyler. We'll do a quick demo and then let them get into
Yeah.
the fun stuff.
Okay. All right. Like everybody is good. I want to point out we've had a few people who've had to drop off. There are some CPEs for this. So before you hop off, if you go all the way to the end of your manual, you should see the CPE in there, so you can upload that if you need those. But okay, so what it basically had us do right was make a campaign, a threat, and a campaign in Scythe that did some actions. You can see in here we have it loads the modules up there. It'll run ARP, print screen, who am I, and then do some time stuff, right? So we were able to set those, click download, go ahead and download it, and then execute it. And if you click the drop down here, you can see the unicorn. That's the host name of the machine that we're on. So you click on that, it'll show you everything that executed. So here under the loaders, is just loading the tags, or not the tags, sorry, loading the modules, nothing super crazy there. Just kind of some system stuff. And then ARP, so it'll run the request that we have, which is ARP, and then provide us with the response right there in our the response right there in the browser, so we don't have to go anywhere else to see it. Print screen, that on there. Who am I, etc., etc. Right? So the lab had us do that, and then we go and we look at our Sigma rule to see what it's doing. So if you look at the Sigma rule here, I prefer Notepad++ to VS Code, but whatever makes you guys happy. In here, you see that the question is what MITRE ATT&CK technique is referenced in the Sigma rule. So this is really just to get you to look at the tag and see kind of what is on there. So what MITRE ATT&CK is referenced, you can go to tag, which is down here at the bottom in this rule. See it is 1124, which is system time discovery. So that's what we're going to be looking for. It's kind of that last step when I had you add the system time discovery attack technique in there. That's what we're looking for, and then explain what the detection will alert on. The detection will alert on the process creation of cmd.exe with the command line arguments of /c and time. So now that we know kind of what the rule is doing and what it's looking for, we can go ahead and chat. John, which the best way to do it is don't copy it from the manual because the manual is written in HTML, so you have all those extra spaces and stuff. The easiest way to do it is just go to the desktop here and desktop into Sigma rules, and then the rule that we're working with is this proc creation Windows system time lookup. Open it in here, and then copy all of it, and then go to uncoder. And we're going to paste it in there. My screen's a little small, guys. And then we're going to paste it in there like that. And then that way it should give you no errors. Still broken. When you do it in the notepad, one thing, the VOP labs don't always like the short keys like Control C, Control V. So you might have to just highlight all of it. Uncoder. Yes. Okay. So I will get to the elastic error here in about 2 seconds, Danny. Have it in here. We choose the language, which in this instance is going to be the Elastic Search query, which is called Lucene. These here with the double slashes are just comments, so it's just pulling the name and UID and author out of it. We don't need to copy that. So we go ahead and copy this out. Right click. Then we're going to go over to Elastic. I know in here it had us go, so it should take you to this home screen. drop down, discover, and then make sure your index is set to winlog beat 7. Mordor is a separate project called the Mordor project, which is used for adversary emulation testing. So the issue that you probably got, Danny, is one that I ran into as well. There is an issue. I don't know if it is that our instance needs to be updated or an issue with Uncoder. I'm not sure, but it puts in automatically the forward slashes to or the backslashes to try to escape the wildcard. So you can see that here because it contains, it puts the wildcard on either side, and Elastic can't read the wildcard. You have to tell it to take this as a literal thing, and there's something broken in the translation of it. So all that talk that I had about everything being just take the Sigma rule and convert it and everything will work just fine. It's never really the case. You always got to do something. So I put in here, just take the slashes out that are by the asterisks, and then it'll return. And then I have that query in the manual. You could just copy and paste out of there. I know that it's a little annoying, and I'm sorry guys. I'm not 100% sure what is causing it. But if you take the slashes out and just leave the wildcards as they are, and then search, you should get your hit. Stanley, if you could let me know if that worked for you. While waiting on that, we can see that. So while it was looking for the command line to have pull the rule up, the command line to have that /c, and the command line to have time, and then the process executable or the image name to be cmd.exe, we can see that all of those hit. It's got the /c, it's got the word time, and it was spawned process executable, also known as the image or the parent image. cmd.exe was spawned, which is what gives us the actual detection. Does that make sense to everybody? Everybody get kind of something similar to that? All right, nothing heard. So the next kind of section that we're going to get into is for writing our own detections or finding our own, curating our own detections. So for this, we are going to launch the Weaponizing Sigma threat. So just real quick, we didn't do exactly that in the first one. What we're going to do is go hit the drop down, do create campaign, and then from inside create campaign, you could call it, I believe it says to call it Sigma when it goes over it in the next one. So we can go ahead and call it Sigma description, Sigma workshop, whatever. The defaults for that are fine. And then we're going to add existing threat, click the drop down, and then we're going to scroll, or you can just hit the W. It'll take us down to Weaponizing Sigma. And then we'll add it. It'll load over here. See, we have tags in this one that tied to the MITRE ATT&CK framework. Some of these have Sigma rules associated with them. You guys are more than welcome to take a look at that, encouraged to take a look at that and see maybe what other kinds of detections we can make for it. But we're going to execute this this campaign, and then here we have some opportunities to write or curate our first Sigma rule. So the Sigma rules that we're looking for are to download Sigma rules that identify downloading files from the internet via PowerShell and modification to the run keys. And specifically, the run key that we're looking for is be HKLM, which is the Hive key local machine, but that doesn't matter. That could just be an asterisk. Software, Microsoft, Windows, current version, run. We're not going to do the run ones. It's in the run key, which you can see in the threat campaign. If you look through it, you can see all the emulation steps. And then we have in here some examples of rules that you could use. I would encourage you to, before you go to slide 15 or page 15, I would encourage you to try to find some of these rules on your own. Just kind of take a look. We have Sigma HQ GitHub that is bookmarked up there at the top. So up here, you could search for some different ways to identify those two. And then we also have in, again, the desktop Sigma rules. We have a Sigma rule for process creation, Windows PowerShell download cradles, and the registry key modifications. So we have those that you can use and translate and deploy to see if we identified the threat. So after that, there should be, does again a little diversion walkthrough, and then the results, and then some challenge questions with a bonus. So that's what we have for this upcoming section. And then after that section is going to be kind of just on your own. We have a couple of threats that we recommend deploying as a campaign. It's ConTV2, which is ransomware, Phobos, which I also believe is ransomware, and then a third one is kind of like a choose your own adventure, more or less. So if you want to go ahead and get started on this section, which is deploying the weaponizing Sigma threat as a campaign and do the 2 detections for that, we will put, Trey, what do you think a good amount of time is to check back in?
It's 2:20 now. I'd say let's check back in with them at 2:35, 2:40, so we can step through it and then let them get final questions and answers, and then they'll have plenty of free time after to go through the last portion.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll just set a timer for about 25 minutes, the same as the last time. I'll do it for 20, and then we'll check and see if you guys need any help. And of course, take time, read through the rules. The lab will be open for a while. Trey and I and Elaine are still here. If you have any questions, feel free to take a break and go to the bathroom real quick or something like that. But yeah, I'll go ahead and start the timer. If you guys have any questions or anything you need from us, please let us know. Hey, John, just saw your question on there. The issue with the error that we're getting in Kibana is that the it is trying to escape the wildcard in there when it's translated. So all you got to do is just take the slashes off of the wildcard on either side of it, and then it'll return it. There's some issue with it the trying to read the slashes with the wildcard associated to it. So just delete the slashes, and it should return the values. And then for that too, if you're still getting issues with it, we have some of the conversion results on slide 17. Hey, John, I see I'm still having some issues with it. No problem. What I'll do is I will convert the rule to one that works, and I'll just put it in the chat, and then I'll show you how to paste into the labs. Just go ahead and give me a second. I'll get those going for you. for anyone having some issues with it, I put the converted rule into the chat, and then I will show real quick in the lab how to send it to it. So, all right. All right, screen should be up now. What you can do once you have that rule copied out of there is up here in the top left of the bar is a send text. So if you click that and open it, you should get a little pop-up and you can paste your text in there and then hit send and it will populate in here. And then I think I might have figured out why the wildcard and slashes were messing it up. And you need to click on this drop down right here. Yours should say KQL because that's the default. You got to unclick that. It'll change to Lucene, which is what the rules were converted in, and then you should get some hits out of there. So sorry about that. That should alleviate some of the issues. If anyone's still having problems, let me know, and I will throw the other rule, the other converted rule in the chat as well for you guys to try out.
Hey, Danny, I just saw your comment. Which one are you specifically having an issue with? And John kind of hit on it too. Change your date range if you're not seeing anything. That might be a little more helpful. Maybe push it out to like 1 day instead of an hour.
All right, everybody. So that takes us to the end of that section. 1 second. Let's see. Yeah, so that definitely getting the date range, stay, seeing our brand insight. Yeah, so I also, Danny, on the second rule, I'm not sure what is happening with it, why it's not returning anything. When we tested it before the lab started, it got results. So I definitely think that rule needs some kind of tuning. I'm going to take a look at that and try to figure out why that didn't work. Because I can see that it ran, that the run key ran. So yeah, I'm not sure what the issue going on with that is. But head and share my screen real fast. One sec. Okay. So yeah, some little quirks that ran into on that one of yeah, just making sure that you change this drop down here from being the Kibana query language to Lucene, because that's what it was actually converted to in Uncoder here. And then if we head and sorry guys, Uncoder, take the file, open, download Cradle, and then just kind of copy all that, paste it in Uncoder, Lucene right here, translate, copy this part, back into Elastic, get rid of that, push that in, and then we can see the anydesk.exe being downloaded from PowerShell via wget. So pretty cool. We see that some of the rules are working. Again, I'm not sure what's going on with the registry add rule, because we can go in to Scythe here and show you guys from the beginning. Inside of Sigma, the drop down, click on Unicorn again like we did before, and then go click through some of these. I think it was up, down towards the bottom. Ping. Yeah, so we can see the registry being added here, hits the current version run. So I'm not sure what's going on with the rule. I will take a look at that and get you guys a rule that is working for it. This kind of shows, again, that there's always some kind of tuning, even in a standard kind of format like this. The rules aren't necessarily perfect. So I'm not sure what's going on, so I'm sorry about that, guys. But going forward, open the manual back up. See the search. We had some challenge questions. So what was the registry value that was set in the run keys? Optimally, I'd like to show it to you guys in here. So what I can do for that is I'll just do some kind of keywords searching. So inside of Scythe, I just pulled out the run key that was modified here. Just took that, copied it, put it over in Elastic, added the double slashes to it, put it in quotes, put asterisks around either side of it, and then we can see that the registries were created in here. Like I said, again, I will look at the at the rule and see what's going on with that. And then the value, see that the value is cpath atomic red team.exe. And then what command line utility was utilized to download any desk. That we can pull the previous rule up, and then like we had seen, it uses the command line utility of wget, vice the IWR or invoke web requests, which were other fields or other command line utilities that were referenced in the Sigma rule, and then what native executable was duplicated under a different name for signature avoidance. Did anybody get this one? Not seeing anything in the chat, but for this, you look in, because we don't have a ton of time to actually threat hunt through all of this. You guys will get the independent lab time to kind of look through everything else that you want to in this. But the easiest way to determine this is to look at the emulation itself on SCYTHE, and you can see here that command prompt cmd.exe was copied to unicorn.exe, and then unicorn was called to run the ping. So some proxy. John's still working on it. So some proxy execution of some common living off the land techniques there is what that was for. And then for the bonus question, for why was the invoke command script block not logged? Does anybody have any ideas of why that PowerShell command wouldn't have been logged? I can show you in here what it looks like. So this up sh, which is the up shell that SCYTHE uses, the up shell module, and then it runs the invoke command script block new object, gives it the download file and the temporary in the out file path also. PowerShell logging not enabled at the appropriate level. That's very possible. That is a great great stab at it, John. But we have with the SCYTHE platform, when we utilize the upsh module, it runs an unmanaged PowerShell. So it exists only in memory. It doesn't actually write anything to disk. So could be we could likely increase the PowerShell logging to include for like things being downloaded, because it's still writing to disk, right? It's still downloading the file and writing that file to disk. So there's some other detection opportunities that we have there that we can dig into, but definitely increasing the PowerShell logging. There is a lot of PowerShell stuff like script block logging that is not automatically enabled in PowerShell that you could definitely miss a lot on. Like in this lab, we have the Swift on security sysmon config installed in there, which is a great start if you guys are looking to get into sysmon. The Swift on the security one is really great. It's what I recommend for the base of it. But okay, so we got section 1 and 2 done. We kind of walked through it. Then we had a bit of like a guided one, a guided hunt, which the term for that is Safari, which is fun. So now we got some other detection opportunities. This is going to be your lab time to go in and deploy your own threats. We don't have any pre-canned Sigma rules in this part. It'll be just kind of on your own. If you need help, obviously we're here to assist in any way that we can. We got some detection opportunities here. We have the first one, which is ConTV2, which I was talking about, which is a ransomware. There's a ton of emulation steps done in this one. Then for the second one, we have Phobos threat, which will show some of that shadow copy deletion that was brought up earlier. And it's got some challenge questions just to kind of help you guys go through it and look back on what the threat is doing and what you're seeing, and see if you're seeing the same things that are being executed in the threat. And then the third one is just kind of choose your own adventure, right? You can make your own threat, deploy your own threat. The SCYTHE platform is very intuitive and very easy to get started. So again, just create a campaign, give it a name, give it a description of whatever. And then you got techniques. You can just look up techniques for things you want to do in, do 1059 for a command line execution. It's got Red Canary stuff that's built into it that can run it that way, or you can close out of this, which is difficult in the small screen. Existing threats is going to have our community threats that are available. So you can hit the letter C, it goes down to Conti. P can take it down to Phobos. We have a bunch of other stuff in here. There's a lot of ransomware. There's some APT emulation, all kinds of stuff like that. And then we have the Sigma tests also. I didn't test these in the lab, but they are supposed to trigger on the Sigma rules that are associated with them. So feel free to launch those and kind of mess around with that. Oh, all right, Jessica. Well, it was great to have you on. Appreciate it. Hope you have a great rest of the day. And yeah, so it's just some other detection opportunities. So the end of this time is kind of just for you guys to go in, play with the Scythe platform, make some detections or find some detections, convert them, throw them in there. Yeah, whatever you want to do in the lab. I know it's still got some time associated with it. So with that, me and Trey and Elaine will still be on to answer any questions that you guys have. The lab should be up for a while longer. So if you guys need anything, please let us know. And if not, this is your time to kind of mess around. Don't forget to download your CPEs on slide 24 of the manual. Really appreciate everybody hopping on here and taking some time with us. Hopefully everybody learned something or kind of could take something away for it. Hope to see you guys in the future on some more workshops. So thanks again. If you need anything, we will be here.
So just so you guys know, I'm going to kick off a quick little poll inside of the Zoom chat itself. Feel free to answer them. You don't have to, but it's nice for us to get the feedback, especially on the first time when we're running a specific piece of content in the lab. I know the lab was a little bumpy, so please say that in there if you believe that it hindered the course. We want to change up the way we have lab environments done anyway, so that'll be helpful. Well, I think that's about it for us, guys. Thanks for attending. Thanks for coming out to the workshops. We will be putting more of these on, so hope to see you at future ones.